You're listening to the Blue Ray Show, the really cool Blue Ray Show. It's the Blue Ray Show, 'cause it's the Blue Ray Show, the one and only Blue Ray Show. It talks about Blu-rays, 'cause it's the Blue Ray Show. The Blue Ray Show. It talks about the Blue Ray Show. Wanna take a ride? Wanna take a cosmic trip of a lifetime to the journey of the center of your mind, expanding out to the universe that all it is? Well, draw the shades, turn off the lights, put the kids to bed, bring in the dog, put out the cat, or bring in the cat and put out the dog, or bring them both in, and relax and let bodacious Bridget Rau and Shamanka and Natalie, Alaya take you on a spiritual trip that you'll never forget. And here is bodacious Bridget Rau. Take it away, Bridget.
Rockin' Larry Lockin'. No, it's not Bodacious Bridget. Unfortunately, she could not be with us today. Rockin' Larry Lockin', Pleiadian Express Productions. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about the man, the non-myth, the legend, the great Nikola Tesla. We've got two exciting guests for you today. First off, we've got Brad Olsen. Brad is an award-winning author, publisher at CCC Publishing, a producer of How Weird Street Fair. Later on in the show, we will be joined by James Stewart, founder of Facebook group, 1 Million People That Demand Tesla's Papers to be Released by the CIA. And Brad, I do have to apologize for that butchered introduction, my man, but I really am glad to have you here, and thanks for coming on and sharing with us a little bit about your knowledge about Tesla. So Brad Olsen in San Francisco, how are you doing?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing great. Nice to hear your voice again.
Well, thank you.
It's a beautiful sunny day out here, and what better way to welcome a new day by talking about Nikola Tesla.
Absolutely. About 500 miles up the coast from you in cloudy, rainy Coos Bay, Oregon. Yeah, it's still a great day to talk about Tesla. I had spoken with you before. I know that Michelle Walling and myself had interviewed you some time back on the Cosmic Awakening show, and and also we had you on for another subject as well, talking about your esoteric series, your book series, and things of that nature. And I was just really impressed, and I just wanted to have you on for a few minutes of your time to share with us your thoughts on Nikola Tesla, maybe how you first came, about hearing about this gentleman, and just what your overall impressions are. So I'm just going to let you go ahead from there. And of course, before we do that, I wanted to send a shout out to my co-host Natalie, Alaya, all the way over in Ireland. The Irish eyes are smiling. Hey, Natalie.
Hi, Larry. I'm here. Yep, it's great, and I'm really excited. I was talking to James before we started, and I learned loads about Nikola Tesla. And hello, Brad. And
Hello
looking
there.
forward to hearing the talk.
Awesome. Okay, Brad, let's have it.
All right, well, just to give your listeners a little overview of who Nikola Tesla was. He was a physicist and an electrical engineer who really changed the world with the invention of the alternating electric current, making the universal transmission and distribution of electricity possible. A lot of people think that Thomas Edison did the AC/DC current. No, he was just direct current and was terribly wrong in that assumption that you could just directly throw energy into everybody's socket all the time, even when they didn't need it. Tesla was very innovative in saying that, well, when they don't need it, it'll alternate, it'll go on and off. This is still the system we use today, and this was developed in the 19th century. Tesla also invented the electric motor, the induction motor, the Tesla turbine, fluorescent and neon lights, radio transmission, wireless communications, wireless electricity transfer, a remote-controlled boat, robotics, and Tesla's oscillator. He also discovered rotating magnetic fields. He invented the electric car, vertical takeoff aircraft, which appears to resemble an ion-propelled aircraft or modern stealth bombers. Bifilar coil, HARP military and weather modification, including laser beams, particle beam weapons, death ray guns, and all of this advanced science came from one individual well over 100 years ago. And Tesla is basically written out of the history books, although in the time he was alive, he was quite famous. Mark Twain came to his laboratory in Manhattan, and he was basically a celebrity everywhere he went, a living genius. Yet he had this vision that he could do things for the human race, even taking himself out of the picture by giving his patents to people like George Westinghouse and, at the time, J.P. Morgan, who financed the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island after he had left Colorado Springs, and was working on experiments called the World System to give the whole planet free energy. Now, can you imagine what the world would be like today if Tesla was allowed to give the world free energy over 100 years ago? We would be living in some kind of Star Trek utopia environment. But of course, that's not the way that history went down. While he was working on this tower on Long Island, starting around 1900, J.P. Morgan was the investor of 51%. Remember that one of the 50% is the big kicker, because he is the controlling interest. Well, Tesla was going along with his experiments and finding that he would indeed be able to offer wireless transmissions of energy to not only the people of the U.S., but around the world. And when J.P. Morgan heard about this, he infamously said, well, where's the meter? How are we going to make money off of this? And perhaps naively, Tesla said, well, there is really no meter. The idea is we can give away energy for free. And J.P. Morgan, with his affiliates in banking and the distribution of energy through copper cables, wasn't having any of it. And he basically pulled the plug on the project, leaving Tesla high and dry. Even though Tesla tried to negotiate with him and said, hey, look, well, if you really want a meter, we can do that. But by then the cat was out of the bag, and J.P. Morgan wasn't having it and said, nope, you're done. We're going to bury you. And indeed, Nikola Tesla died penniless and quite destitute at the end of his life. A real shame for someone who was basically the greatest mind out of the 20th century. So it's a sad story how it ended for Nikola Tesla, but I think his inventions will live on for a long, long time.
Not sure what's going on with your mic, Liz.
Yeah, I couldn't make any of that out.
You sound like the chipmunks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Chipmunk Show. We didn't get any of that. You might need to restart or something.
Yeah, that was like the Chipmunks is interviewing you, Brad. Yeah, I think Larry has to restart his computer. Definitely, I think that the world would be a different place, and he was really a humanitarian. I only started learning about Tesla a couple of years ago, and basically through Facebook and like groups and people like you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I did.
Okay, how about now?
We can hear you now, Larry.
Yay, the chipmunks are
Yay.
gone.
Okay, great. Sorry, folks out there, for that interruption. Brad, a couple things came to mind while you were talking right there. Of course, do you think that this was a concerted effort to keep him out of the history books? Because I had never even heard of Nikola Tesla. I mean, the first Tesla I ever heard of was the band Tesla that was around when I was in high school. And also, too, I just can't help but to think that had Tesla been allowed to go forward with this, that we probably would have had computers by maybe as early as the 30s, maybe the 1940s, and certainly the internet by the 60s or early 70s. And then another thing that's coming into my mind too is, where do you suppose Tesla got the inspiration to come up with these ideas? I mean, it's amazing that this guy had this technology in excess of 100 years with some of this stuff before, we're just now starting to embark upon, getting this kind of information within this matrix that we deal with. So I'm just wondering, do you think that it was an overall corporate thing to keep him out of history books? I mean, this thing has really been a big disinformation campaign as far as I'm concerned about Tesla, and trying to make up all kinds of things about him. I've even heard such crazy things like, well, he did die penniless, but that he tried to marry a bird, and I've heard all kinds of crazy rumors about him.
I think your first question is, was there a concerted effort to keep him out of history books? And then you said, I never even heard about him. I heard about the band Tesla before him. Well, there you go. Yeah, there was a concerted effort, and it was very successful, because what he stood for and what he did truly could have and would have and still is changing the course of humanity. So to have all of his patents known and understood would be a great service to humanity. Now, I think you guys probably have heard about 9 days ago on Saturday night, a week ago, there was this great display in the skies over California, and I had the great opportunity to have witnessed it, and it was merely only several seconds, less than a minute, lighting up the sky, lighting it up like a laser beam was shining down in my neighborhood. And it wasn't until I learned that this was a supposed Cold War era Trident II missile launch from Southern California. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. It was an energy weapon, an exotic energy weapon that, as I said in the setup piece, Tesla had worked on 100 years ago, like a particle beam weapon, drawing energy in a very exotic nature. And I wouldn't even be able to explain how this test 9 days ago over California, now called the blue light over California, was powered or propelled. But it harkens to Tesla's technology. And so much of his technology, especially on the weapon side of thing, this death ray side of thing, or particle beam weapons, has been sequestered by the Department of Defense, and we may never really ever know how these things work or what they're all about. So if we were to have a Freedom of Information Act to get all of Tesla's information out to the world, I think people would be very shocked just how incredibly advanced his thinking was. And your final question is, where did he come up with all this? Well, he did say on several occasions he was receiving transmissions from outer space, from other people. I'm not saying that his very unique inventions were the subject of some kind of ET intervention, but I would say that he was admitting, quite frankly, that he was having some kind of transmissions with space people, and maybe he was inspired by that. I'll leave it at that.
No, that's a good point. I've always thought that too. Actually, I've always thought it was the Pleiadians. Not to plug them or anything, but I've always thought that he developed that consciousness somewhere that came to him, and he was a very unique individual. And I'm hoping you guys can hear me okay right now. Am I coming across okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Brad, exactly. So you were talking about this this sighting over California. This last, not this last Saturday night, but the Saturday night before, I do believe it was.
Yeah.
It just stands to reason. I had heard,
Seem to have lost you, Larry.
Yeah, we lost you, Larry.
Okay, can you hear me now? Am I coming across okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So real quick, Brad, real quick. So, of course, the rumors abound have always been that in 1943, when he passed away, you had two separate government agencies that rushed basically to his residence to secure all the documentation and plans that he had and was working on. And I kind of wonder what in 1943 could have been such a big deal. And of course, now we know that they would have had to go and secure all that information. You know, was he working on teleportation? Of course, obviously, these weapon technologies. It's just crazy that you can't get any of this stuff released through the Freedom of Information Act. And I think our next guest, James Stewart, will probably touch on that a little bit. But it's just crazy because there's nothing that it would seem in the mainstream. That ought to raise red flags alone that, you know, that nothing from 1943 can be released. I mean, even the code talker information was released that was used in World War II by Native Americans to throw the, you know, Japanese and the Axis forces off. So it's just really amazing, and I think that there really is not too many bigger subjects to discuss for humanity's future than Tesla. Not only that, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be resentful when more and more of this comes to the forefront of just how much has been hidden and kept from us. And I just wanted to, you know, throw that in there.
Absolutely. And you asked what may have precipitated his death or aided in his silencing towards the end. Well, in my book here, Future Esoteric, which we've talked about before, I'm actually updating it for a second edition right now. He was also privy and part of the Philadelphia experiment. And this was a experiment by the Navy to try to make one of their ships become invisible. And in many ways they succeeded, but in many ways they also failed. And it's said that, well, Tesla, as we know, was a great humanitarian. And he was very anxious about having some of his inventions fall into the wrong hands or even be used by the U.S. government in the wrong way. And he, in fact, he was involved with the Philadelphia experiment at the very beginning and helped facilitate some of the technology that would be used. He realized that this could be a very dangerous thing for anyone to have, and he just stepped away from the project. Well, when it went live, he was there on the docks in Philadelphia watching the whole thing. Some people even say that he may have been a part of sabotaging it just to make sure that it didn't go through. And ever since the Philadelphia experiment, anything having to do with this kind of high technology, cloaking devices, even dabbling into the other dimensions, which is what this ship, the USS Eldridge, did, he was very cautious about stepping away from that. And that may have been part of the reason that they had to silence him, or that they had to at least make him sound like a crazy kook, that he married a bird and that's all he cared about. And that was what I heard about him in the early years, is that he died destitute. He was this genius who'd made some other advancements, but basically died penniless and insane. And I would like to see the history rewritten about this part of his life, that indeed he was working on these experiments and new technology and new patents well up to the day he died.
No, I definitely agree with that. And, you know, the technologies, I think the military is using them now. I happened to catch an interview not too long ago with George Knapp interviewing a gentleman by the name of Robert Guffey, who is working on or wrote a book called Project Cameleo, and about the military having these technologies now with cloaking devices, you know, AI, what you might see in the movie Predator, for instance, and even, you know, creating fake visions in the sky, like recreating extraterrestrial sightings in the sky and whatnot, and going to places of places that are known for this over the eons of seeing things like this in the sky before we even had the technology to do such a thing, to try to throw people off. And this technology could definitely be used for what people term a false flag or whatnot. And I think it's really important that people understand to use discernment in everything that they're seeing, because the government, the powers that be, whoever, the military industrial complex has technology that would, just on the basis of conspiracy theories. I mean, it's a whole hell of a lot deeper than that. And, the technology that they have is just incredible, and most of it is ripped off from Tesla, I'm sure. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting, food for thought, all of this, and very important.
I have, Larry and Brad, when I heard about Tesla and his bird fascination, I do wonder if he was communicating with the avian starseeds.
And we've just come to hear about the blue avians through David Wilcock and some of his disclosures. That's really interesting. I never tied that together, but you could be right.
No, I felt that. I was like, oh, he really knew, like he knew their soul, he saw something beyond just a bird. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I had a chance to hear Corey Good and David Wilcock both talk about that, it really resonated with me. And yeah, I think so. I think that's what it could have been. It's just that there was no label for it at the time. And I think that, we're just putting this puzzle together, and it's great that we have individuals like us, and of course Brad and James and people such as that are bringing this to the forefront. And I just think it's really exciting as we go forward to just continue on in this path. Brad, I really want to thank you for coming on. Brad, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? I kind of wanted to have you tell everybody on Facebook, that's going to be listening to this, where they can find you, and just talk a little bit about, in closing, what you're working on now and what your, future plans are.
Well, my future plans and what I'm working on is Future Esoteric into a second edition, including new information, new images, and updating it from 2013. As we know, the world changes very quickly, and I'm all about keeping my information updated and as current as possible. I'm also publishing in my capacity as a publisher at CCC Publishing here, and that's where people can read my books and then other authors that I publish is cccpublishing.com. I'm doing in the middle of a 5-book publishing deal with author Leo Lion-Zagami out of Italy. We already have The Last Pope, Money, Masons, and Occultism in the Decline of the Catholic Church published right now, and then Confessions of an Illuminati just came out. So I'm well deep and well versed in some of these nefarious forces in the world that would like to keep the human race bottled up and not evolving, but I'm not having it, and you guys aren't having it, and I applaud you guys for doing what you do and increasing the consciousness, because I've often said that the revolution will be consciousness, and by making people aware of Nikola Tesla's inventions and some of the other things that are very important for people to know, we're all raising the consciousness that way. So if people want to learn more about me, I also have a website, bradolsen.com, and a YouTube video channel called Esoteric Series. They could follow me there.
Brad, thank you very much, and of course we'll include these links in the show as we post it to the over 50 to 100 different Facebook groups. Thank you, Brad, and thank you for putting up with our technology hiccups, man. When you get all this energy together and low-budget equipment that we should have had 100 years ago,
thank you, Brad. Wonderful.
Hey, truly my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on. Hope to talk to you again.
All right, thanks, Brad. Thank you. Wow, well, Natalie, that certainly was fascinating, and of course it's always a pleasure to talk to Brad as well. And Tesla, the subject of Tesla is not, I won't say it's not his forte, because it is his forte, but he does so many other wonderful things. His esoteric book series is just amazing, and it's just amazing to hear his thoughts on anything that pertains to this subject. And I
do have to say to Brad, before I forgot, he was an ISU Bloomington, was his alma mater. I worked at ISU for 2 years. I did my postdoc at ISU.
That's right. Yeah.
Go Redbirds.
Redbirds. Ooh. Yeah, anyway, so just a shout out to ISU. Sorry.
Much loved ISU.
Avantis. Anyway, so I'd love to bring James on. So just so people know where James is calling in, so hopefully the sound will be good. But maybe you could introduce James now, Larry.
Yeah, not a problem at all. Of course, James hails from the Calgary area of Alberta, the province in Canada. Yes, I'm probably the only American that's well-versed in all the Canadian provinces. It made me look like a real dork in high school. I was the only one, I think, that knew Ottawa was their capital out of my whole graduating class. In fact, I'm sure of it. For those who don't know, Alberta is the second province in, coming from the west once you get past British Columbia, sandwiched there between Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Yes, James Stewart. In fact, the first time I had a chance to talk with this gentleman was also on the same show that Brad had came in for a few minutes on during the Cosmic Awakening show on N5D that I did with Michelle Walling, probably been over about a year ago now. And I just really, enjoyed listening to James because he's coming at it from a purely research, factual standpoint. He doesn't really get into the extraterrestrial side of it like myself and others might. So he also runs a really, really awesome group on Facebook I wanted to give a plug to. It's called The Million People That Demand Tesla's Papers Be Released by the CIA. And I really appreciate the work that he does as well. And Natalie, how are you coming along with getting him?
Yeah, he's good.
Hi, James.
Hi. Hopefully I'm on. You can hear me.
Yep, they can hear you.
Close enough for rock and roll, brother.
Can you hear Larry?
Yeah, I can hear him. Yep.
Okay.
I get both of you guys. I'm going to be a little bit of a downer on this. There's a couple of things. I'm more of a realist when it comes to this whole situation. And one of the biggest problems that I had was when I started, and it's a billion people that demand that Tesla's papers be released. And it's a billion for a reason. We're not talking about the United States. We're talking about the world. The world deserves to have Tesla's papers, not just the United States. By calling it a billion, I was specifically saying that it was more people than what actually could vote in the United States. It had to be the world. So that's why it was named a billion people. But when I started it, there was a bunch of different groups out there, and a lot of them went into the conspiracy theories, of which really people were not listening. People were saying, "Oh no, this guy's you guys are nuts. You guys are crazy." A guy that used to talk to his bird, are you talking about this guy? Yeah, crazy guy. And I had to try to somehow fight through that. So one of the things that I wouldn't allow on the group in the very beginning, I basically touched on HARP, but I wouldn't allow it to go into that direction. And another thing I wouldn't allow it to go into was this whole thing with the alien, because this is what they used to discredit Tesla in the very beginning. Tesla was, at the end of his life, people were starting to pick up on some of his stuff, because, his stuff was just amazing. And at the end of his life, the New York Times, they did an interview with him, and they were trying to discredit him. And basically what they did was they asked him, they said, these electrical transmissions that you have, you get electrical transmissions, you ever been studying outer space? And he said, well, yes. And I said, well, have you heard any transmissions from outer space? And he said, well, yes. And I said, well, do you think that those might be coming from aliens? And he said, well, yes. And he said, there you go, Nikolai Tesla was talking to Martians. He's an absolute Looney Tune. And Nikolai Tesla is totally off the wall. And this is what they use to discredit him. And it's, to me, I just wouldn't let it go in that direction because I don't want to see the guy being discredited. The fact of the matter is this is the biggest genius that ever happened on the face of this earth. Nikolai Tesla, when he first started, probably the biggest thing that he came out with in the very beginning was his remote control boat. Now, the remote control boat, first of all, Tesla tried to always sell his stuff to the military. There's another thing I'm going to be a little bit of a downer on. It's that I don't believe that the military is interested in Tesla, and I'll tell you why. They weren't interested in anything that he had to say all the way through. The first thing he did is he came up with a remote control boat, and the remote control boat basically was using radio waves as the very first radio wave transmission signal ever to hit the face of the earth. And at the time, some people thought it was magic. Some people thought it was, an act of God or something like this. Tesla was some sort of a magician. But he wasn't. He was doing it with radio waves. But his whole idea of this remote control boat was to use it for the military. He wanted to use torpedoes with remote control to go into ships and places like that and blow them up. And he said that's how you could use my technology. The problem with the military-industrial complex is that they make money from making and selling boats and planes and tanks and things that blow up and they have to be replaced. And Nikolai Tesla's technology meant no manpower. He didn't have to send a whole whack of guys out there on a ship and power guns that had a whole bunch of explosives in them to destroy another ship. With Nikolai Tesla's technology, you could just basically send it out there by remote control, and it could blow up the ship all by itself. No manpower needed. And so the military-industrial complex was not interested at all in Nikolai Tesla's remote control boat. But that was the very first radio transmission, and it was done. It was patented way before the radio, way before Marconi, way before anything. How Marconi came into it was that Marconi, all of a sudden, heard about Tesla, and he had been doing some research on radio waves and things like that. And he came to work for Nikolai Tesla. And he was able to study some of Nikolai Tesla's documents and talk to Nikolai Tesla. And then he went away to Europe, and he started working on his own thing. But that's, when he went away, that's skipping ahead a lot in the story. Let's go back a little bit. Just after the remote control boat came the Niagara Falls. And how that came about was that back in Tesla's day, and a lot of people look at pollution today and they say, it's awful and it's going to kill us all. Well, Nikolai Tesla saw this a long time ago. Back in the days in New York City, when Nikolai Tesla walked around New York City, the whole of New York City was just filled with smoke because they had coal-fired power plants every 10 square blocks in order to power the DC power that was powering the lights and the electrical devices. There were very few back then, but basically the lights of New York City. And also, if you look at some pictures from back then, you'll see the transmission lines of the Edison system were thick, and they were numerous. There was lines all over the place, and it was absolutely ridiculous. Nikolai Tesla looked at this whole situation and he said, okay, now first of all, I can do this wirelessly. But, short of doing it wirelessly, I certainly can make those transmission lines a lot smaller, and I can transmit a lot further without having to have coal-fired power plants every 10 square blocks. this DC power is not the proper way of going. Nikolai Tesla did not invent AC power. All he did is Nikolai Tesla picked up on AC power. Westinghouse had seen AC power, or at least heard about it, and he too was into AC power. And he got together with Nikolai Tesla, and Nikolai Tesla's dream, ever since he left basically the other side of the ocean, was to turn Niagara Falls into a big power plant. And he could do that. And basically, that was his dream and his goal. And he thought that the
Okay, I do apologize, everybody. We are definitely having some issues again. James is in a situation where he's in the Calgary, Alberta area, and he's having trouble apparently either with the connection or it's some kind of an equipment malfunction on his end. But until we can get him back on, I would like to take this opportunity as well to talk a little bit, just give everybody a rundown of when Nikola Tesla was born and whatnot and where he's from. Of course, he was born in he's a Serbian American inventor, electrical engineer. He was born in July 10th of 1856, passed away, of course, in January 7th of 1943. He's known for the design of modern alternating current electricity. He gained experience in telephony and electrical engineering before emigrating to the United States in 1884 to work for Thomas Edison. I think pretty much everybody, that's aware of Tesla knows that. I think some of the things that have been touched on already, of course, he patented the AC induction motor, and it was licensed by George Westinghouse, who had also hired Tesla for a short time as a consultant. His work in the formative years of electric power development was involved in corporate alternating current, direct current, war of currents, as well as various patent battles. He went on, of course, to pursue his ideas of wireless lighting and electricity distribution in high voltage, high frequency power experiments in New York and Colorado Springs. Early on in 1893, pronouncements on the possibility of wireless communication with his devices were announced. He tried to put these ideas to practical use in his ill-fated attempt at intercontinental wireless transmission, which was his unfinished Wardenclyffe Tower project in his lab. He also conducted a range of experiments with mechanical oscillators, generators, electrical discharge tubes, and early X-ray imaging. He also built a wireless control boat, which James had touched on early on. He was renowned for his achievements in showmanship, eventually earning him a reputation in pop culture and kind of a disinformation label as a mad scientist. It's saying his patents earned him a considerable amount of money. Probably early on they did. Much of it was used to finance his own projects, as nobody really wanted to finance him when they found out that this wasn't about money for Tesla. It was about bettering humanity. I know that some of his eccentricness caused him a temporary dysfunction in between his family and caused him to kind of move away from them and go out onto his own. So as everybody knows, he's a very unique individual. Lots of wonderful inventions that we probably don't even know about. I think one of his biggest concerns, again, like Brad Olsen had mentioned earlier on in the show, was that he was concerned that the military and the powers that be, whether it be the military industrial complex of the time or big corporations, which are kind of, one and the same ilk, would use these technologies for their control and for, less than honorable intentions for humanity. I.e. the fact that this technology has been doled out to us over a period of 100 years. I mean, some of this technology that this is, some of the stuff that he's even rumored to have had, video imaging, much like a home video camera that you might see people that had an extraordinary amount of income have as early as the late 1960s, and which most people have today with your average cell phone. I mean, this technology, this moving frame by frame technology, it's rumored Tesla had this created before the turn of the as we moved into the 19th century, or into the 20th century, from the 19th century. So it's just really amazing. And again, I want to apologize to everybody out there for these technical issues that we're having. It's a low budget system that we've got here. We don't have very much capital to have this on another kind of a format. So we try to do the best we can here, and we really appreciate folks for hanging with us. And that's why, I'd like to encourage everybody to go to our new website. You can find that on Pleiadian Express Productions under the pinned post. It's, I believe, larrylocken.wix.com, something of that nature. I know Natalie Alaya, the great Natalie Alaya, designed this website for us, and there is a donations button on there. I would encourage everybody to check that out, as well as our many groups on Facebook that we have again. And if we can't get this problem resolved here in just a minute or two, we'll go ahead and cease the transmission and cease this broadcast and regroup and try it for another time. And that's about all I got to say. Just kind of hang with us momentarily. And in the meantime, until we get back on, I'd like to play a little clip that I've got, a little 2-minute kind of musical description talking about Tesla and his contact with the Pleiadians.
In the late 19th century and early 20th century, the great scientist Nikolai Tesla was reportedly contacted by the Pleiadians, and their Venusian-based allies had given the technology that led to his invention of the AC/DC electric current. Dozens of electronic devices popular today, hundreds of instruments used in aerospace technology and electromagnetics, and hundreds of patents. Tesla was arguably the greatest scientist of modern times, based on the number of important popular inventions he initiated that he patented. Without the X/DC, Edison's electricity was worthless to the masses and long distance. He was Edison's top inventor, and was also one of the 2 leading radio technology inventors of the century. He publicly credited extraterrestrial.
Can you hear me, Larry?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to put James back on. James?
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. So I don't know where we were left off, but anyhow, I think that we were somewhere around the point of J.P. Morgan destroying Edison. And but anyway, that's going a little bit further ahead. Let's go a little bit further back. Once Nikolai Tesla turned around and made the AC power work and powered the whole eastern seaboard, using, of course, Edison lines, which made Edison happy, this is where J.P. Morgan knew he had to get control of these power lines. So basically that's what he did. Is J.P. Morgan got a hold of everybody that was paying for power from Niagara Falls through these Edison power lines by destroying Edison. That's basically what he did there. And his next goal was to go after Tesla. Tesla, in the meantime, took all of his millions that would be described in today's money as of at least $30 million, of which he got paid for this making the AC power. And he didn't like this whole idea of the control. He didn't like the idea of using power lines. He wanted to do everything wirelessly. That was the idea. So what he did was he started experimenting at his lab, but all of a sudden, during this whole process, all of a sudden, Edison's lab went up in flames, and within days, Tesla's lab went up in flames. So all of a sudden, both the laboratories are down. Edison is totally ruined. Edison is totally ruined because he's got all of his books, all of his papers, all of his inventions, everything that he's ever done, totally burned up. Tesla, on the other hand, had a photographic memory.
Yeah.
Tesla didn't need his papers. So off Tesla went to Colorado Springs. Tesla gets to Colorado Springs, and what he did was he got 6 Westinghouse generators together. And the idea of having these 6 Westinghouse generators was so that he could turn around and make a tap into the ionosphere. He built a big tower, And with this tower, he would transmit power into the ionosphere, expecting power from the ionosphere to come back into the tower. And it worked. The only problem was there was a heck of a lot more power than what he expected, and he burnt out all 6 Westinghouse generators. So, at that point in time, now he's totally stuck. Westinghouse demanding that he fix the generators before he gives them any more money. So, Tesla turned around and he started working on fixing these generators. Well, while he was fixing the generators, he still thought this was a good idea. He knew where he had made a mistake. So he thought he knew where he made a mistake. So he contacted the Colorado Springs Power Company. And he asked them if he could use their power as a tap. And somehow he finagled this deal, and he was able to do this. And he got the power from the Colorado Springs power plant. With this power, he was able to transmit, again, power from the ionosphere into the ground using the tower. And with this power, he was able to go 25 miles away from the power plant and take Tesla bulbs, because Tesla bulbs were a little bit different than Edison. He liked to use fluorescent. But anyway, he took Tesla bulbs and he stuck them into the ground and they lit up 25 miles away from the power plant.
Amazing.
And this is just a prototype, okay? This is just a prototype. You think about the average city today, okay? Is there any cities that are 25 miles around? No, there isn't. So, the fact of the matter is he could power a whole city wirelessly with this power. But you know what? He burned out the Colorado Springs power plant. It was too much power, he blew it out. So with this, the Colorado Springs power company sued Nikolai Tesla. So, and they confiscated his lab. So now his lab is gone and everything else, and he went with his assistant up to Quebec. Well, again, turning around, and he wasn't getting anywhere with the U.S. military. The U.S. military was not interested in anything that Tesla ever put towards him. So he went up and he went after the Canadian military. He thought maybe the Canadian military might listen to him. So he went up there and he was able to construct a couple of towers, in which I'm not sure exactly how far it went. There's different estimates. It's either 10 miles or 30 miles, but again, he was able to transmit power wirelessly over a long distance using that power. And he was just turning around and showing it to the military. Now, this is the problem with Nikolai Tesla, is that he kept on trying to push the military. The military were not interested in his technology. They were into the military-industrial complex, where they made boats and tanks and airplanes and bombs that blew up, and they had to be replaced. There was a lot of people employed in this industry. Nikolai Tesla's energy technology took away all those jobs. There's no need for them with Nikolai Tesla's technology, so they really weren't interested. But in the meantime, the assistant that went with him to Quebec, excuse me, the assistant that went with him to Quebec documented what happened when they got there. And one of the things that happened when they got there is that Nikolai Tesla had something that looked what we would recognize today as a video camera. And he took videos of the entire trip from what this guy says, his assistant.
Wow.
His assistant does check out as his assistant, okay? That doesn't mean that everything he says checks out. It just means that he checks out as his assistant. The reason why I'm kind of iffy on this whole subject is he's also the assistant that goes into this Pleiadian stuff. And it shows that Nikolai Tesla had conversations with aliens and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to go for this because there's no evidence for it. However, I do believe that he was able to construct what would have been a video camera. Okay, and from what his assistant said, that when they got to a room, he was able to put up what looked like a picture frame, which today we would recognize as a TV monitor, and he was able to play these videos back through the picture frame, moving picture frame as he recalled it, okay, which we would obviously know today as video being played. So Nikolai Tesla was able to do that. And at that time, he also came up with the electric car. We have got evidence on the electric car. Yes, he did have an electric car. Okay, so he was also doing that as well. But it was at this point in time that his big plan was, now that he's tested it twice, and he's getting nowhere with the military, and he's already blown up the Colorado Springs power plant, and he's already been sued, he's got nowhere else to turn but to nobody else but J.P. Morgan. And J.P. Morgan will make a deal with him, because J.P. Morgan is a scoundrel.
A total scoundrel.
J.P. Morgan's deal is this. Yes, I will fund you to make this Wardenclyffe Tower. What is it going to do, Mr. Tesla? No, Mr. Tesla wasn't exactly stupid about this. He only told them part of what it could do. He said that it could transmit radio signals around the world and video. Okay? J.P. Morgan said, okay, all right, I will fund you to build this Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, New York. But under one condition, Westinghouse cannot give you any more money. You want to cut Westinghouse out of it completely. In the meantime, he had already almost destroyed Westinghouse. Westinghouse was on his knees. He had still kept up most of his, a lot of his company, but I'd say 2/3 of his company was destroyed.
Wow.
By none other than J.P. Morgan and his different little things that he was doing against him. And so that's what happened. So Nikolai Tesla now was going to get funding for doing Wardenclyffe from none other than J.P. Morgan. But nobody else was allowed to fund them except for J.P. Morgan. And what happened is that all of a sudden Marconi, crops up with the first transatlantic radio signal. Well, at this point in time, when Marconi, using Tesla's tech, by the way, had transmitted this radio signal across the world, J.P. Morgan at that point turned to Tesla and he said, so what do I need you for now? And Tesla said, now wait a second. First of all, he hasn't transmitted video. All he's done is radio, okay? But I can actually do a heck of a lot more than that. Now, J.P. Morgan was not stupid, because he had known all this stuff. He knew about Tesla's little trip to Quebec, and he knew what went on in Quebec, and he knew about the electric car, and he knew about everything about Tesla. Believe me, he knew everything about Tesla. So anyway, Tesla said, I can create, with this tower, I can produce power wirelessly all throughout the world. I need about 3 of these towers, okay? It's placed strategically around the world, and I can power the whole world. And J.P. Morgan said, well, why the hell would I want to turn around and do that? If I got no cap on it, if there was no way for me to put a meter on it, how the hell am I going to charge people for this power? You know, like the whole idea with Edison's system is I got wires. I can charge people for the power. They can't get it anywhere else but my wires. And you want to do this wireless thing? And Tesla said, yes, but J.P. Morgan, you don't seem to understand. Imagine all of the products you can make to plug into this power, and you could turn around and sell these products worldwide. And J.P. Morgan said, the hell with that. I mean, Jesus, I own all the wire companies, and they're stringing them up all over the world.
He missed the boat. I think J.P. Morgan had no vision there. I know he wanted the power, but he didn't have the vision to see he could have been even richer, maybe, if he had followed Tesla.
And he sure could have. He says, okay, all right, well, you know, Tesla says you can have people can plug into these plug-in devices. We can have a lot more than just lights. There's a lot more than we could do.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I own the coal-fired power plants that power these electrical companies. I own the power lines. They have to get the power from me. I own everything now.
Yeah,
okay?
psychopath.
So, like, I own everything. So the hell with you, I'm going to turn around and make money my way.
Yeah.
Right? And that was so Tesla spent the rest of his life trying to get J.P. Morgan to actually to finish funding him for Wardenclyffe. But J.P. Morgan, of course, wouldn't. And there was many times Tesla even had him a message delivered to him when he was visiting the Pope, trying to get J.P. Morgan. Trying to get J.P. Morgan to fund him. But you see, this is the thing, that J.P. Morgan had it all wrapped up legally that nobody else could fund Tesla except for him. He was the only guy. There was one guy out of Canada who was a millionaire that wanted to fund Tesla, and he was going down to see Tesla, and he mysteriously died in a car crash.
Oh, gosh.
You know,
yeah, not a coincidence.
It was a really strange situation in which he shouldn't have been killed or anything like that, but it happened. And I wouldn't put it past J.P. Morgan to do anything as a shyster that he was. So Nikolai Tesla basically could have powered the world with Wardenclyffe. After Wardenclyffe, Nikolai Tesla would not produce any more patents. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, we know that Nikolai Tesla continued to experiment, and we continue to do a lot of different things. One of the things that he did, and even Mark Twain talks about it, is that he had a little earthquake device. He could make a room shake. He could make a building shake with a little tiny device. Using electrical power. Don't ask me how he did this, but he was able to. When Mark Twain went to the bathroom, he made the whole bathroom shake and scared the hell out of him.
Oh, I know, James. James, will you talk about Nikola Tesla, how he proved Einstein wrong about the faster? You were telling me about that.
Yeah, well, part of the while he was working with Wardenclyffe, he did explain Wardenclyffe, and it was all done in the court case at the very, very end. When they finally did shut down Wardenclyffe because he got foreclosed upon because he couldn't pay the bills, and J.P. Morgan would not fund him any further. So when they were being foreclosed upon, he went to court, and all this court transaction, he had to list everything that was inside of Wardenclyffe. And there was a lot of talk about what he could have done with that Wardenclyffe. So he didn't go too far, and he was very Tesla was very coy about giving people too much information, and he had obviously good reason to be very coy about telling people what he was able to do. But anyhow. One of the things that he did was he did some experimentation with electricity going through the earth. He was able to send an electrical beam around the earth, and it came back to him. And this is part of his experimentation. Then he found that once he sent this electrical pulse around the earth, that all he would really need to do, because the Earth works as a natural transmission line. Yeah. All he would really need to do is to gently tap this beam or this pulse when it came back to him to make it go continue to go around the Earth. But the fact of the matter was, he also proved in the time that it took for the pulse to go around the Earth and come back again, that the pulse moved faster than the speed of light.
I'm just amazed. Yeah.
It moved faster than the speed of light. So he was totally against what Einstein said. And he was fighting with Einstein right, left, and center, right up until the last days of his life, saying that Einstein is the guy's too much of a genius for me to go into, but he was talking about curved space, and that Einstein was wrong about curved space. And, some of the stuff that he gets involved in, I start to read some of his documentation, and it's way over my head. Like,
I actually think they have kind of said now that the newest thing, they used to talk about the curve of space-time, but they actually think it's just space, no time.
Yeah. And anyway, the big thing with Nikolai Tesla, and what I think that humanity needs to get from Nikolai Tesla, it's not the Wardenclyffe Tower, and it's not these beams. Yes, he was able to come up with a beam. He said instead of using nuclear weapons, of which was Einstein's big promotion of which he was going to do, of making the atom bomb, instead of doing that he could come up with an electrical pulse of which could totally destroy an entire approaching army. It could totally destroy a bunch of ships on their way towards to invade. He could protect an entire continent with the electrical pulse in kind of a sort of like a force field that he could do. And he had all this technology. And again, the military was not interested.
Yeah.
What happened was, in the end, Nikolai Tesla, when he did die, and a lot of people want the conspiracy saying that he died an old man. He was not killed by anybody. He died an old man. But the thing is that at the very end of his life, when they came and they went into his papers.
Okay.
Let me tell you a little story about how they went into his papers. How they went into his papers is this way. The OSS, they were at war at the time. It was 1943. And at the time, by the way, while he was still alive, Marconi and Edison were able to bribe the judges in the United States to give Marconi the patent for the radio. So that's where this whole idea of Marconi invented the radio came from, is that he actually did own the patent for it for a while, because the judges were conned. The fact of the matter weren't the con, they were bribed. They were bribed straight up.
Oh,
and
wow.
right after Nikolai Tesla died, the Supreme Court gave Nikolai Tesla back the patent to the radio. So, yes, he owns the radio. Nikolai Tesla is the guy that invented the radio, not Marconi. They actually came to, Nikolai Tesla really didn't care about fame or fortune at all. They came to Nikolai Tesla at one point and they said to him, but Marconi's making all this money out of your invention. Why aren't you upset? And he said, Marconi's a good man. There's nothing wrong with Marconi. And they said, yeah, but he's making all this cash with radio. Aren't you jealous? And he says, well, he used 17 of my patents to do it. And he did. He used 17 of Nikolai Tesla's patents in order to do it. And that's the reason why he was awarded back the invention of the radio. But anyhow, throughout all this stuff, here he is, he's dead. And it's wartime. And who's responsible but the OSS at the time, which was the forerunner of the CIA, okay? So who's in charge of the OSS? OSS turns around and gets a hold of Hoover and says, okay, Hoover, who's the head of the FBI, he's got to get a hold of Nikolai Tesla's stuff here. We got to have. He's an American citizen, so it's going to be kind of hard. How about we pretend we don't know he's an American citizen, and we have the Office of the Alien Intelligence go in there and confiscate his stuff. So the FBI was in there to confiscate his stuff, and all of a sudden the Office of Intelligence guys came in, Alien Intelligence guys came in and grabbed all of his stuff, and they went through it. But the real telling part of this is who they had looking at it. Who they had looking at all of Tesla's papers was not anybody from the military. Military, again, were not interested in any of Nikolai Tesla's inventions. They didn't care less. You know, it had nothing to do with the military. They weren't looking for this particle beam weapon. They weren't looking for anything in the weapons grade. No, they were looking for free energy. The guys that were looking at Tesla's papers were the guys that were against Tesla on this idea of free energy transmission all around the world.
Do you think they wanted it for themselves and not share
They wanted to
it?
make sure that this stuff didn't get out. They wanted to make sure that nobody else came up with this, because this would totally shut down the energy cartels.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, the energy cartels were just in their infancy. But if Nikolai Tesla's wireless power was able to go around the world, you wouldn't need oil. You wouldn't need natural gas. You wouldn't need any of this stuff. No coal-fired
And you'd be free of the Arab influence. And I'm born in Lebanon, so I think that just the oil cartels are brutal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The energy cartels, they didn't want to have this. So that's who was looking at Tesla's papers. That's what they were concerned with. They wanted to make sure they could make lots of money. They had no idea about global warming. Tesla did. Tesla knew that this was the worst thing. Tesla even talked about it. He said, first of all, you're going to depreciate all of, these are finite resources, oil and coal and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
We don't need to use that. The electricity is unlimited all around the world. Just the sun alone, and Nikolai Tesla, a lot of people don't know this, he invented the first solar device. It wasn't a full solar array, but it was the very first. He's got the patent on it before anybody else. He also came up with the very first bladeless wind turbine. Now people are out there screaming, oh, wind turbines will kill birds. Well, you know what? Nikolai Tesla had the bladeless wind turbine over 100 years ago. And yes, you don't have to use blades on wind turbines. You can use it bladelessly as well. So, I mean, this is what the energy cartels throw up as propaganda to try to get you to continue to use their system. And right now, at this time in life, for humanity, if we don't get off those fossil fuels, we are dead.
I totally agree.
We are dead, and in very short order.
Very quickly. Yeah.
There's nothing going off in the Arctic like you wouldn't believe, and not only do we have to listen to Nikolai Tesla, we have to turn around and start adopting what he had. Now, I don't think that Wardenclyffe is the best idea today. A terrorist can take out a tower, although he did have that sort of a device that would protect the tower as a force field of some sort, but that's not the solution. The solution is that now that we've got solar power perfected and we've got wind power perfected, everybody can have individual power.
I believe that. I think we could power our own needs. Definitely. I think that's where we're going.
And we don't have to pay energy cartels for anything.
Exactly.
We can turn around and we can use electric power. But there's something else that I promote with this group. 1 billion people that demand that Tesla's papers could be released.
Yeah.
So I came up with a name to give it some shock value, to turn around and get people to listen. But the fact of the matter is that the only problem with using wind and solar and geothermal power, which are all natural and they don't cause any pollution, and they're absolutely forever. They will never go away. The only problem with using these is storage of the power, and the very best way of storing power on the face of this earth is in hydrogen. And hydrogen can be made with solar power and water, H2O, 2 parts oxygen, 1 part hydrogen. That is how water is comprised. You split the water with an electrolyzer, then the hydrogen goes into a tank. You do not have to compress this hydrogen. Hydrogen can be uncompressed. And then once it's stored, it is stored forever. It does not depreciate. A lot of people don't realize even gasoline depreciates. You cannot leave gasoline in your car for 10 years and then expect you're going to come in there if it's unevaporated and it's still going to be good. It's not going to be good. It's got a shelf life. Batteries have a shelf life. Everything's got a shelf life, but hydrogen. Hydrogen does not have a shelf life. It'll be just as good in that gas 1,000 years from now as it is today.
Yeah, we were talking about that too, James, about how nature shows us, and Nicola was into that. They're saying we've lost communication.
Yeah.
Shoot, that nature is showing us, the plants.
The plants grow. How plants grow is through a Okay, so we got...
I'm back on, but I don't know if they can hear us. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. Okay, guys, sorry about this. Okay, James, go back.
Okay.
So about the hydrogen, you were talking about how plants, that hydrogen is a fuel source, and how
plants use hydrogen in order to grow. They take sunlight, which I'm talking about with solar rays, and they take water, which they get rain from, okay? And then the process of photosynthesis makes hydrogen, and that's how they grow. Well, we can use that hydrogen too. We can use the hydrogen to store our electrical power, and we can use the hydrogen to use and replace fossil fuels. Now, the only problem with using it in a non-liquefied form is it takes up a lot of space. But it doesn't take that much up for a home. People constantly are thinking about, when they're talking about hydrogen, they're thinking automobiles. They're thinking about cars and trucks and airplanes and boats. Well, certainly you can use it in that, but storing that much hydrogen on board, you need a very big tank, and it's just too massive for the average person. So what they do is they liquefy the hydrogen, and they compress it. Well, yes, if you liquefy the hydrogen and you compress it, you can have a small container that will fit in your average car that will drive your car 400 miles. Yes. The only problem is, to liquefy that hydrogen, the process is very expensive. It ends up costing you more than it costs for gasoline. So it isn't feasible.
It's cost prohibitive.
However,
yeah,
but if you take vehicles out of the picture, completely out of the picture, and think about them on a separate scale. Think about your home. Think about your businesses.
yeah.
You can definitely have, in the old days, they used to have oil tanks sitting in the back of your house.
Well, they still have those in Ireland, by the way. I lived in a house that had oil tanks, and they fill them up, and I've never seen them before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They've got those. Well, one of those oil tanks filled with hydrogen is enough of gas hydrogen is enough to keep your home running for a month with no center wind. And there's never a month with no center wind. So the fact of the matter is that you can have batteries like the new Elon Musk came out with the Powerball, and that battery, if you had two of those, that would keep your house running during a stormy week or whatever, when there wasn't enough center wind to be able to power to fill up the batteries. But one of those tanks that you have in back of your house filled with hydrogen would keep that going for the month, for the whole month. Okay, so but you can also do something else with hydrogen. You not only have to use it. What happens is you make it with solar power and water through an electrolyzer. It goes into the tank. Now you've got the hydrogen in the tank. Then there's two ways you can use this hydrogen when it comes out. You can run it through a fuel cell, and it'll power your home, or it'll charge your batteries. Or the other thing you can do is you can take that hydrogen and just use it, burn it, the same as you for your cooking, or for your hot water tank, or anything else that you would normally use natural gas for. You can use hydrogen, and hydrogen burns hotter. If you want to take a cutting torch, the very best cutting torch in the world is a hydrogen torch. What's really neat about a hydrogen torch is that hydrogen, when it burns in one direction. It doesn't really have a lot of radiant heat. So you can actually have the nozzle of the hydrogen torch burning away, and it'll be super hot right in front of that flame. But you can put your fingers on the edge of the nozzle, and you won't burn your fingers.
Wow.
Because it hasn't got any radiant heat. Hydrogen, when it burns in one direction. It's safer than any fossil fuel because hydrogen, unlike gas or natural gas, when let's say it escapes, let's say you've got a leak of natural gas, well, it hangs around. It hangs around in the gas. It will fill up a room, and if you light up a match, the whole room will explode. Well, not so with hydrogen. Hydrogen travels straight upwards, mixing with the atmosphere because it's part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mixing with the atmosphere as it goes at 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
For you to be able to light a hydrogen a flame on a torch, it's not like most people see these other torches for cutting torches and stuff like that use acetylene. Well, if you'll notice on the acetylene torch, all you need is a spark. to light that. You have a little device with a cap on the end of it, and you basically make a spark with this thing, and it lights that acetylene torch. You can't do that with hydrogen. Hydrogen immediately, as soon as it comes out of that nozzle, wants to mix with the atmosphere. It wants to be part of the atmosphere. So there's no way to light it with just a spark. You need a direct flame in order to light it. And again, when it does light, it's going to burn in one direction with no radiant heat. So it'll just burn a hole through anything that's in front of it.
Wow.
And it'll burn through anything. It'll burn through anything, but just a little tiny hole with no radiant heat. There won't be a whole bunch of flames all around it. So if you ever had a hydrogen leak inside of your house, first of all, at 45 miles an hour, all the hydrogen will be gone in no time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It'll escape out into space.
Yeah, and second of all, for you to be able to light it, you have to run around after it with a big flame, because you ain't going to do it with a spark. Okay? Well, it's a little bit different when you're talking. It's a little bit different when you're talking compressed hydrogen, liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen, yes, if you've got a spark or a flame close to that, then because it's compressed, yes, you would have a massively big explosion. But hydrogen is not new to society. We've been using hydrogen for almost as long as Tesla's been around. The fact of the matter is that today's technology can store hydrogen very safely. There's no problem. When you're talking about non-liquefied hydrogen, you can store that in any old propane tank. You know how propane tanks have only got a certain lifespan, and then they have to be certified again. They have to be fixed up for leaks. Well, because you're not keeping hydrogen at high pressure inside of this, you don't have that problem. So you can't have a leak, and if you do have the smallest leak, because hydrogen is the smallest molecule, it will immediately escape. So using solar power, wind, geothermal, which is fantastic. It'll heat and air condition your home, and all you have to do is get down anywhere in North America, and I'm sure it's the same in Europe. You don't have to go down deeper than 6 feet.
That's correct.
To dig a trench around your house, and then you lay down these geothermal pipes, and they will heat and air condition your house for the life of your building. And they also dehumidify the house. And what happens is the liquid is used through a compression process. You compress it or you decompress the liquid to make it hot or cold. Okay, and that's how you get your heat or your air conditioning. How that's done is through a heat pump. The heat pump are fairly inexpensive. For the average home, you're looking at around anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 for a heat pump that has little to next to no maintenance. And it will run on as much power as it takes to run a TV set.
The other thing is about hydrogen, James. I mean, that's the first chemical on the, let's say, the chemical, table, the chemical chart. And it was the first thing that came, let's say, into manifestation in the physical world from atoms and quantum mechanics is hydrogen.
Yeah.
It's the first substance in the universe, isn't it?
Hydrogen is the most abundant thing in the universe. Your body is made of hydrogen. Okay, all plants have got hydrogen in them. Everything you can think of, biomass, everything. It's just like atoms. Hydrogen is involved in
everywhere. Exactly.
It's in outer space.
Yep.
Hydrogen is in outer space. Hydrogen is everywhere. It is absolutely abundant. You'd never run out of it. You never ever could run out of it. So in the sunlight, you're never ever going to run out of that. And the wind, you're never ever going to run out of that.
Okay, and now Larry says he has a question, if you can hear him. Go ahead, Larry. I
can't hear him.
I can't hear him either. Hold on. You have a question, Larry?
Hello, Larry.
No, we're not hearing Larry. Okay, go on, and maybe Larry will come on soon.
Okay. Anyway, hydrogen, yes. So the fact of the matter is that if we want to get out of this global warming crisis, the very best thing we can do is to go over to solar and wind and geothermal technology. The biggest problem with that is storing this power. The very best way of storing the power is in hydrogen. And a hydrogen tank is not, how big that hydrogen tank is not a problem when you're talking about in your home. It's only a problem when you're talking about in a small vehicle. Then you have to compress it. So
right.
You don't have to. So if you've got your home, now just picture this, if you've got your home completely off-grid, you're using solar power. If you're going to build a home today, it is advised by any solar company that you would make it 150% efficient. That means that you have 150% of the power that you need at any time, because you're going to have peak hours and you're going to have low hours.
Right.
Okay, so to make it proper, you should have 150% efficient, and that's without wind. And wind actually is more powerful than solar, but you never know when the wind is going to blow. And the fact of the matter is, if you do that, if you set up your whole home so that you're powered by wind, solar, geothermal, and you've got all this extra power, well, you can do one of two things. You can sell that excess power that you're making during all these peak hours, everywhere from like 10 o'clock in the morning till like 8 o'clock at night. Okay, all those hours, all those peak hours. Okay, you could either sell that extra energy back to the grid using their transmission lines, of which lose 15% of their power just in transmission alone. Okay? Mm-hmm. And say a defunct grid that is out of date years ago, but it definitely cannot handle 2050 anyway. Okay? You can sell it back to that grid, or you can store it in hydrogen. And if you store it in hydrogen, you never, ever, ever need the energy cartels ever again.
Yeah,
because now what you can do, is you can go and get yourself a car that's electric.
Now,
or hydrogen.
Larry, can you jump in?
Yeah, James. Hey, James, I had a question really quick. Am I coming across okay, Natalie?
You are? James, can you hear Larry?
I can hear you just barely. Let me get back to the computer so that I can hear him better because of my...
Okay, now, Larry, hold on. Can you...
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Larry. Larry, we did hear you, but now we can't.
I don't hear him.
Larry, calling Larry.
Hello?
There you are, Larry. Go on with your question.
Okay, James, does it seem like the Canadian government is a little more receptive to this than the United States government, or is it basically that they've drinking the Kool-Aid up there like we have down here? I mean, I've warned Canadians about this for decades, about American influence making an inroads up there, and it's obvious in the political system up there now that that's kind of how it's getting. Because I bring that up because you mentioned Europe. You're talking about, they're a little more open to it. It seems like in Europe, these technologies, or at least the keeping an open mind and not so much keep staying focused on feeding the money-making energy machine.
Well, you know why, Larry? The reason why is that in Europe, they've already gone past peak oil. They already have basically depreciated their oil system to the point where they see that it's already going and that there is no more future in oil. So in Europe, they understand quite clearly that the game is up. Time is up. And they can't turn around and do anything else but look for a future of energy. Here in Canada, we have got the tar sands, which not only not only has Canada got number 3 in the amount of oil reserves left in the world, but Canada has also the tar sands, which are the biggest polluting force on the face of this earth. If we were to use and mine all of the tar sands, we would put more CO2 into the air than has ever been put into the atmosphere in all the time that we've ever been burning fossil fuels worldwide.
Wow.
And we're dealing with a situation where we've already got methane going off in the Arctic, of which nobody wants to talk about, and it is unstoppable. We're talking 100 times the greenhouse gas of CO2, and they're not even mentioning it. Now,
yeah, I haven't heard anything about the methane, except methane with the cows.
Yeah, well, no. There's methane going off in the Arctic because the Arctic is melting. And underneath the Arctic is a bunch of permafrost.
Yeah,
and that permafrost, there's been 5 mass extinctions on this planet, and every single one of them had to do with methane. The worst of all was the Permian mass extinction. It killed off all but 5% of life on this planet, and it was an extreme loss of methane coming out of the permafrost and all over. You had a big meteorite that came down and split the Earth's crust and released a whole whack of methane. That's what happened, and that's what's happening right now because of what we've done with the CO2. So we're in big trouble, and the government doesn't want to talk about it. They don't want anybody to even know that we've got methane spewing in the Arctic. And, Larry was asking what the difference is. The difference is we've had the King Hopper up here for the last 20 years, ruling things, and he knows all this, and as far as he was concerned, he was waiting for the rapture. What the heck? Let's make all money now because we're all going to be sucked up by Jesus, and we're going to turn around and all go to heaven anyway. And ride our winged horses to heaven. It's just absolute insanity. Religion is probably one problem. Energy cartels are another. You put them both together, and I wish we could throw both of them away.
I totally agree with you.
You got a recipe for disaster there, brother, for sure. Exactly.
Religion and the energy, definitely. Extremism. Yeah.
It's all about money. Now, the fact of the matter is that we can get off. Canada's got more natural resources than you could shake a stick at. We could turn around and mass produce solar, wind, geothermal like you wouldn't believe. We could turn this whole country into a manufacturing paradise. It would take 100% of the world's population to work, 100% for a minimum of 2 generations just to retrofit and set up solar, wind, geothermal all around the world for every single human being. And by the time we got done, it's replacement time. Everybody would be working. It wouldn't be just the rich 1%. It would be everybody working. It would be good for everybody.
Yeah.
But the energy cartels don't care about everybody. They only care about themselves. And to the point where they're willing to destroy all life on this planet. And it's time for us to wake up and realize what they did to Nikolai Tesla, what they've done to us, and what they're about to do to us. We have to stop it. We have to get rid of these energy cartels right now. We don't have to have power lines. We don't have to feed into a grid. We don't have to have wires running everywhere. We can do it wirelessly. Right now, there's wireless technology on the market. If you turn around and you can produce your own power inside of your home or inside of your business, you can run most of your devices wirelessly right inside your home. Can't do it with a grid because it's too big an area, but you can do it in a small area.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Little transmitter inside of the basement of your home can look after your TV and your radio and your clocks and everything else. You might not be able to run anything as quick as a fridge, but you know what? For your fridge, you can use hydrogen. You know?
Oh, for sure.
You can use so many other things. We don't have to use fossil fuels anymore.
No, definitely not.
It's beneficial for everybody. So, for all this suppression of knowledge about Nikolai Tesla, the energy cartels have had their run for years and years and years and years, and now we're at the end of humanity because of it. All right? And there's no need for it. And it's time for people to wake up. The internet is probably one of the biggest things on our side. Is that we've got the internet now for years and years and years, for millennia. They had control over us. The churches, they had everybody illiterate, and everybody had to go to the church to get their information. It was all about this fairy god, okay? And they would give me some more money. Then when the printing press came out, the churches were up in arms. Holy cow, what are we going to do now? Well, at least they're all still illiterate, you know. Yeah, they were still illiterate. But eventually the newspapers came out. Well, the first thing we had to do is get control of those newspapers and the radio and the TV and feed you a bunch of propaganda and get you to think that, hey, you know, don't let any, don't have any hydrogen. Don't advertise hydrogen at all. Oh, that solar power stuff. Oh, that just cuts birds. You know, and the wind turbines, they're killing birds. Yeah, you don't want any of that stuff. You want to stay with us, the energy cartel, because we're the best guys. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now with the internet, and people are actually not illiterate anymore, they can get on the web, and they can see what Nikolai Tesla did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the deception runs deep, brother.
And they can see the wind turbines, and they can see the solar panels, and they can see how we can turn around and do this all around the world. So, I mean, it's an amazing time to be alive. Are we going to make it? I don't know.
And like the fact that we can do shows like this, like Larry and Bridget and I are doing, bringing this information, and lots of other people are doing it too. And I'm happy to be doing this and helping awaken humanity. Yeah, Larry.
Yeah, and for sure, it's been great to have you on, brother. And of course, Brad, at the beginning of the show, it was a pleasure. And I'm getting an echo, but okay, there the echo subsided. But James, it was really a pleasure to have you on. And like I'd mentioned before, of course, Brad at the beginning, so that we can all get together and brainstorm these ideas, and not these ideas, but these facts that just need to come out into the perception that we've been running on this antiquated system for 100 years. And, you know, I'm just really grateful that you've came on and everything today, brother. And I know that I've got an appointment to run to here in about a half hour, and James.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this up.
James, I just want to give you the opportunity to take a minute or two, or a couple minutes, and tell everybody, you know, where they can find you on the World Wide Web, where they can, you know, again, talk about where they can find you on Facebook, wherever they may be interested in hearing more, you know, about your perspective and all the great links and.
We'll put links up too,
yeah,
by the way, people who are listening. I'll put up the links too, but go ahead, James.
Well, first of all, if you want to know about Tesla, I run the biggest Tesla group on the internet, and it's off of Facebook. It's called 1 Billion People That Demand that Tesla's papers are released. You will find the actual numbers, the number 1 billion is written down in numeric form, okay? On that group, I want to tell you something about that group. That group, at the very top of the group, has got a list of, it's called the Free Energy Helper. And it's got literally thousands of experts in every kind of free energy technology you could ever even imagine. And the links to the Facebook page, to the email, the whole 9 yards, so that you can get a hold of them. All right? And it's all free. It's at the very top of the group. You can't miss it. Then also at the top of the group, you're going to see files. Inside of files, it's got documents on every kind of free energy technology: geothermal, hydrogen, the whole 9 yards, solar, wind, and HHO. People need to know about HHO. HHO is how you can make your fossil fuel burner run right now cleanly, and you can save 15 to 30% by going over to HHO. Pepsi-Cola turned their whole fleet over to HHO. They're going to save over $3 million this year alone. So definitely that's the Tesla group. But get on there and have a look at what we got. There's so much information. It's been running since, well, it's been running over 4 years now. And then the other group for Canada is Canadian Truth News, eh? I put the A in there because everybody knows.
Say the name again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. What was the second group? Canadians?
It's called Canadian Truth News A. I put the A in there because everybody always thinks the Canadians don't say A. And we do say A.
A?
That's basically just getting at the truth. Getting at the truth about global warming, getting at the truth about what's going on in politics, getting at the truth about what's going on with the stupid religions and belief in fairies and all this other kind of stuff. Trying to get people to wake up and realize that we don't have to listen to these energy cartels anymore. We don't have to listen to these politicians. We don't have to listen to the priests. We don't have to listen to these leaders who have got it all in their own interest for you to be suckered in like a sheep. You can start to learn on your own.
And generations of us have been suckered in, and it's time for it to stop.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And get out there and turn around. If you haven't, just have a look at. Find ways that you can power your cell phone with free energy. Use free energy to turn around and even power your. Try a solar cooker. Try a solar cooker. They're really great. They make, if you got a balcony or an inside deck or something like that, try a solar cooker. Try to make a meal with a solar cooker. Get involved in free energy. Do something. Make one step forward.
Great idea, James. Great idea.
Something in free energy. And change this world around. Because if everybody gets just one thing, we will totally change this world, and we might be able to get out of the global warming.
Yeah.
But again, it's a method, and we need to get those scientists funded, because it's scientists like Nikolai Tesla that is going to get us out of this.
Yeah, there is a problem with that, I think, because I did a PhD in immunology, James, and a lot of the science is run by pharmaceuticals and big industry, and they don't want real science. You know, we need to fund real scientists, not just ones that are market-driven.
Well, these guys have to understand, you can't spend billions of dollars on your grave. And,
yeah.
You know, even if there was a soul, there was a heaven, which I'm positive there's enough scientific proof that it does not exist. The fact of the matter, if there was, you can't take your gold with you.
Yeah, so thank you, James, so much.
Your children are going to die, your grandchildren are going to die too. And if we don't do something about this, it's no longer about money. We got to do this for free. We got to do it for everything.
Absolutely.
Like Nikolai Tesla did.
Okay, thank you, James. And James's group is 1 billion people to demand the release of
Tesla's papers.
To demand the release of Tesla's papers from the CIA. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Great show, Natalie, despite all our hiccups and hang-ups. And yeah, it's been a good, interesting show, and I would encourage people to kind of suffer through the mutter a little bit and listen in and, you know, listen to the replay of the show, because there's some great information that was put out here. And, you know, try not to get hung up on the technical disturbances we had here and there. It's worth listening to. I can't wait myself to listen to it on replay. I really mean that. I'm not being sarcastic. I do. And, I can't wait to hear some of the things that I missed trying to sort through all this technical minutia that we run across. Again, going off of 100-year-old antiquated technology that we should have had 100 years ago. It's just these are the kind of things that can happen and these are the challenges that we face and are kept under control of. And Natalie, of course, it's a pleasure as always to do a show with you. It's a good flow every time. Missed Bodacious Bridget Rau. We did hear from her.
Hopefully she'll be with us next week. We've been talking to Bridget. She's been having technical issues herself with Wi-Fi, so we'll get everything sorted soon. And Larry, you're going to have a great laugh when you hear you as Alvin Chipmunk.
Yeah, exactly. Singing, "I'll be a blue, blue Christmas."
Oh, it was worse than that. Anyway, guys, yeah, great show.
Great show. Yeah, worse than me singing "Blue Christmas" by Donald Duck. Okay, I can't wait to. I can't wait to hear that back. And of course, Natalie, why don't you go ahead and close the show and let everybody know where they can find the great Shamanka, Natalie, Alaya.
Thank you, Larry. You can find me on Facebook. I have my own page, Starseed Shaman. I also, that's on Google Plus and YouTube with my own channel. My website is alayahealingservices.com. I'm on Twitter, Alaya Healing. I do readings, shamanic work, soul retrieval, all sorts of stuff, Munaki, and yeah, contact me if you're interested in just getting some guidance or getting a healing. Oh, yeah, and sorry, Larry, I do want to say I run with Larry Pleiadian Express Productions. Delighted to be a part of the team, and the Pleiadian Blue Ray Show with Bridget and Larry.
Yeah, I would like to echo that, and actually, I would like to take this segue to point out, in case to kind of promote this. I've started a GoFundMe page to help with some technical equipment, to help these shows.
We need technical equipment. We do this all with our own money or lack of money. So we do need a little bit of funding for technical equipment.
Yes, and we would like to manifest that to be better, so that we can bring you better quality programming, and even on a more frequent basis. So basically, if you'd like to donate to the GoFundMe.com page through Pleiadian Express Productions, what I would really encourage everybody to do, because they don't use PayPal anymore through GoFundMe, I would encourage you to send me a personal email, a message on Facebook, or send me a message at not Larry, but Lockin Larry, my name backwards, at gmail.com, and I can, it's a real easy process to donate. Or you can go to the website that the great Shamanka Natalie Alaya created for us, and there's a donations button on there as well, and that is at larrylockin.wix.com/Pleiadian Express Pro. We had to leave the deductions off of it. That's larrylockin.wix.com/Pleiadians Express Pro .com, or actually no, that's the whole word right there without the .com. The .com was before. Anyway, yeah, with all these technical glitches, my mind's kind of in a haze right now. But you can also find me on the Pleiadian Express Productions YouTube and Google Plus page, as well as the Pleiadian Light Grid Projects YouTube, Google page, and these all have Facebook pages as well. I'd like to plug Nikolai Tesla and the Pleiadians Facebook page, Pleiadian Blue Ray Show page on Facebook as well. All the great groups, like I think I had mentioned 3 or 4 times during technical interruptions we were having earlier on. Fringe Thinkers, Pleiadian Plus, Pleiadian Star Family Healers, all the regional groups. Leah Shapiro, Pleiadian Group, NW Freedom Fighters, much love to Lionel Anderson, Victoria Pleiadian, Leah Shapiro, Bridget Rau, my twin flame, Sif Gunner's daughter, and of course to you, the great Natalie Alaya, Shamanka. And with that said, I'd like to give everybody a big dating game kiss, and we're out. Mwah.